I am Troy Thiel, and welcome to my version of the Offsite Dirt Network Podcast. This is my first episode, and I am super excited to have Edie Dillman here with me from B Public Fab. Real quick about me, and then I'll have Edie introduce herself. I am currently a resident of Madison, Wisconsin, and I work with the Real Broker Group for residential sales and development consulting, and I consult across the state of Wisconsin. I was in Rochester, Minnesota this week. I still do projects out in Seattle, where I was based out of for a while. And I'm a passionate advocate for missing middle. I know Edie is too. So, Edie, why don't you tell our viewers about yourself?
Thank you, Troy. Glad to be here. I'm Edie Dillman. I'm the CEO of B Public Prefab. I'm very proud to help lead our team in revolutionizing how we build, specifically residential. So I'm excited to talk today with you, Troy, about that missing middle and how we're addressing it. We're a team of architects and craftspeople and innovators working to disrupt the building industry, but really we're at the base, at the core, craftspeople doing very traditional building. We're just doing it offsite in a controlled environment and being able to deliver great assurance and quality for every build. So our form of prefab is just the structural thermal envelope. So think about the shell of any building. So replacing site framing and all that air barrier, house wrap, insulation structure. We take care of that in sort of a Lego-like system that is ultimately custom every time. You know, we often hear from people, prefab, what does that mean? I don't have a choice on finishes and what. No, really, we are just hidden behind all of those finishes and offering a low energy super comfort for every build. So I'll stop there and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, if you haven't, go to the B Public's website. They do incredible stuff. I wanted to talk, and we talk about missing middle, and I'm a big passionate advocate, and actually ran a panel at the NAR National Convention in Boston this past fall for home ownership improvement because we've developed a lot of housing in America, but it's been primarily apartments in the multifamily space, and that lack of balance is really blocked a lot of churn in the housing resale market. We're not giving empty nesters spaces to move to smaller nest and cash in, but maintain home ownership or first time buyers. What are you seeing and what are you working on in that kind of space of that kind of product?
Yeah, and I think it's worth pausing and explaining to people what we mean by that missing middle. We were just before we started recording talking about places we love like Chicago. And that missing middle really is what is lost or we stopped building good 50, 60 years ago between that single family home on a single lot and multifamily apartment buildings. And there are a lot of forms in between that we all really like, from, cottage courts, small developments of small residential developments to townhomes. Those three flats and brownstones we all love that when we're living close together in urban settings work very well to create community. And we've sort of stopped that missing middle development. I spend a lot of time talking to developers who are really interested in the fabric of their communities and really filling those gaps, those sort of empty lots that make it an unwalkable neighborhood or just sort of those blighted areas where we haven't done the proper infill development. And that's really where we're looking at how can we build faster? How can you sort of take the advantages of offsite construction and fill in those gaps. And certainly it's not just the properties. It's not just those lots. It really is truly what's missing for housing. And you described that really well. We talked to a lot of people about aging in place and wanting homes that are going to last and be forever homes. And those could be townhomes. Those could be ADUs. I'm really excited to talk about sort of this idea of using casitas or mother-in-law apartments or ADUs or auxiliary dwelling units to create a new form of housing where we're really creating multi-generational single family lot housing solutions. For some of us, that may be anticipating our children wanting to live independently, but maybe can't afford to build their own. So being able to utilize unused property and adding an ADU, or that aging in place. My parents are aging, and gosh, it really would be so much better in supporting them as they age to be right there close to home. So that's a lot of the conversations that we're having, and we certainly support organizations like Incremental Development Alliance and Strong Towns, who are actually training individuals, neighborhood folks who want to do development and do that development where they're living so that they can be right there watching their projects go up, but also manage their own properties. And I think those kind of grassroots organizations and trainings they're very popular and easy funding mechanisms to, to build 3, 4, 5 units in a smaller development. And that's what we've been missing, is that sort of smaller developer getting into the business and doing sort of smaller, manageable developments in our communities. And that, I think, is really appropriate in our rural communities as well as in urban infill.
Yeah, a lot of great information there. In my experience in Seattle, there were several successful public policy changes that accentuated the ability to build larger ADUs without parking requirements. They reduced parking requirements for multifamily units in specific urban locations that were well served by transit-oriented development. There's a great program there called the residential short lot zoning, which divides. It can turn up to 3 into a regular city lot, put 3 housing units on it. And that's been a very successful program. I consult many cities in Wisconsin on housing supply and how they can do that. And those are easy ones to get after, as you know. In Madison, I helped the housing committee address the ADU upright, and now we can build on one level up to 1,000 feet. When in the old days it was 700 feet, you had to pay the same fees, and so there's been some red tape in the way of building what we need, right, and making it viable fiscally. And the age in place thing, I always try to remind people, it isn't just aging in the existing home. So my wife and I downsized to a ranch a few years ago. It's condominiums and townhomes can be it's aging in community by the place. It's my friends they're all retired except for me that hang out at the coffee house every morning. They have coffee breaks all day long. I have to get to work after a while. And so it's that kind of fabric of choice and smaller. Jane Jacobs is beauty in the small. So these smaller projects, there's a challenge to finance the larger condominium projects. But the smaller projects, the 6 to 10 unit townhomes, the risk is significantly less and it's easier to get pre-sales so they can get their developer financing. Are you working on any projects that are multifamily right now, or you see any coming up?
Yeah, we are. We're actually working, we've partnered with the local Habitat for Humanity, and they have won a city land grant to do 5 units, townhomes, really close to the historic downtown. I'm really excited to be working on that project. And I think when we're addressing housing, especially with a nonprofit developer like Habitat or these other community developers that we're connected to, is what we provide is a low energy solution. So by building very well airtight and well insulated, we offer the occupants certainly comfort, but it's comfort at very low energy. And most of these projects are all electric. And that is so important, especially to our aging population or our underserved population, that what we build, it's not just the housing units we provide, but it's that assurance that they're not going to have, a $300 to $600 utility bill in the middle of winter or in the middle of summer. So being able to offer that lifetime comfort without being disrupted by whatever happens in the utility market. So that's really exciting. And I think I'm going to go back to one point you just pointed out. the people we're working with, for the most part, are really interested in modest size homes. That's a lot of what we're seeing is people really want just really functional, comfortable space, but not necessarily sprawling. And I think we talk about sort of sprawling floor plans, but we're also talking about sprawling communities. And I think people are really interested in walkable, being able to have neighbors, having that sort of central fabric to community as they're looking for aging in place or just a first-time home buyer. That what people are seeking really is modest, and really kind of harkens back. We're always talking about sort of the Sears home and, quality production homes that we all kind of grew up with. We're all familiar with those forms. That's a lot of what we're talking about. Is let's go back to those fundamentals of housing.
Exactly. Because I always say everything old is new again. And people say, there's this shiny object thing in our world, right? The new shiny object will solve the problem. And I'm like, we used to do it right. Well, let's go back to what we used to do. And that was that missing middle that, Daniel Paralek at Opticos, he coined the phrase and did the nice little drawing. But it's about the type of housing that we've always had and we stopped building, especially for home ownership. We've never built more apartments than we've built. Last year, we opened 600,000 doors. We only opened 18,000 condominiums nationwide, and half of those were 1,000 foot or more luxury product, usually out on the coast. And the challenge with that is most owners who are an empty nest, have you ever heard the phrase rent down buyers? Or rent down renters? You've heard buy down buyers. They believe in home ownership because it's helped their stability and their connection to their community and their economics. And so we need to get that mix back. I have a hashtag called Fix the Mix. So I know we got a little limited time. Let's talk about collabs and tell us about what you're doing with collabs.
Yeah, it's sort of part and parcel to how we think about building. In many ways, we're still building how we built, 100 years ago. Be Public is very much that way. We're using wood. We're framing our assembly, so it's very familiar to everyone. And sort of in kind of not redesigning the wheel every time. So that goes to the details of connections and systems. And a part of our belief that a great, well-designed, well-built home should not be a distant fantasy for people, is the collaboration or the collabs program that we have going. So working with amazing architects from around the country who are offering standard home plans with Be Public for really high quality and some of them very modest shape sizes homes that are basically ready to go. I mean, a lot of these projects are being slightly modified, but ultimately they're very livable, wonderful, recognizable home forms. And then being able to incorporate offsite as a portion of those builds. So again, not reinventing the wheel, being able to reuse licensable floor plans and home plans, and then make it appropriate to the climate, number one, with the Be Public panels, but two, an aesthetic, that architectural style. So much can be done with those overhangs on eaves or even just the finishes we choose. So currently on our website, it's available from Shape Architecture in Denver. Last year's Colorado Young Firm of the Year. We've got a bunch of plans with them, including an amazing townhome that any developers who are listening should go look at that townhome design. It's dynamite. We're also working with Holly Mumford out of Brooklyn, New York, who has the company Hear About Home. And she's got just beautiful pre-designed plans. And that is all her company does. So our partnership is offering pre-designed plans ready to go with the prefab with pricing up front so that people can kind of dive right in. But it's not a lesser product. I think there's a lot on the internet that you can click and buy a PDF. I hate to say it, but they're really not buildable and they're not really designed for high performance, high comfort, green housing development. And of course, in this conversation, Troy, all of those are really appropriate for neighborhood developers or infill developers to implement great design without having to have a ton of upfront time and costs related to architectural fees. So we're going to continue to add to that. I've got some really exciting new home plans coming out, some things that I know my Chicago clientele are really excited about. Certainly we're implementing a lot of these home plans in the LA fire rebuild. So in Altadena and Pasadena and in the Palisades, just in time, the right form of collaboration to serve many communities for sort of a faster, better building process, again, based on traditions.
Yeah, that's all great stuff. The Chicago connection runs deep here, and Audrey with Offsite Dirt, our queen. I will think we've wrapped it up. We could do 3 or 4 more episodes easily after this, but let's close this one out. And I want to say thank you again, Edie, for your time. I really appreciate everything you do and your team does to help the housing market, and that we need the type of product that you're passionate about. So I'll say goodbye, everybody, and I'll hit the record button off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Troy.